Jake Harris was just another explorer from Earth. He wasn't famous, he wasn't a hero. He was just a young space pilot working for the Human Galaxy mission. His job was to scan new planets, collect samples, and send boring reports back to command. On this day, he was orbiting a strange, quiet planet far away from any known system. No one had named it yet. Jake called it Planet XJ79. It looked empty from above, dark red clouds, black mountains, and no signs of life. He pressed the button on his helmet to start the live stream. Millions of people on Earth could now see what he saw. His voice came through strong and clear. "Hey Earth," Jake said, smiling under his helmet. "This is Jake Harris, reporting from a lonely red rock in the middle of nowhere." The chat on the screen lit up with laughing emojis and jokes. Jake chuckled, then raised his hands and said jokingly, "All right, I'm sick of being single if any aliens are listening. I have a message for you. Who wants to marry me?" He laughed again, not knowing his joke had reached someone who wasn't human, someone who was watching far away, hidden in the shadows of a massive red moon. A dark throne room came to life. A tall, pale woman opened her glowing red eyes. Her long silver hair floated like smoke. Her skin was cold, but her heart had just heard something warm. A voice, a question, a proposal. The alien guards around her bowed their heads. The Queen of Althera had just risen. She smiled and whispered, "I do." Back on Jake's ship, things got weird fast. The navigation screen blinked with a strange signal, an unknown code flashing over and over. Then a robotic voice said something impossible. "Proposal accepted, binding in progress." "What the hell?" Jake said, leaning closer. The screen changed, showing a strange symbol glowing in red, a circle with sharp teeth around it. Before he could react, the ship shook violently. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed, the engine stopped. Jake slammed buttons on the control panel. "Control, this is Harris. My ship's been hit by something. I'm being pulled. Repeat, I'm being pulled in." No one answered. Only silence. Outside the window, the stars bent and twisted. A dark hole opened in space. Like a mouth ready to swallow him, Jake screamed as the ship was dragged inside. Then nothing. When he woke up, the ship had crashed into something soft. Jake stepped out and looked around. He wasn't on Planet XJ79 anymore. This place was different. The sky was blood red, and the ground glowed faintly. Huge black towers rose into the air, and floating castles circled the sky like moons. He pulled out his scanner. No signals, no life signs. But then he heard footsteps. From the fog came a figure. She was tall, graceful, and glowing. Her red eyes stared into his soul. Jake froze. The woman walked closer and smiled. Revealing sharp fangs, her voice was soft, but full of power. "Jake Harris, human pilot of Earth," she said. "You made a vow, and I have come to honor it." Jake blinked. "A vow? Wait, are you talking about the joke?" "That was a joke. To you, maybe," she said, stepping even closer. "But on Althera, when a man offers himself freely to the stars and the Queen answers, the bond is made." Jake stepped back. "No way, no. I didn't mean it like that." She raised her hand, and the ground beneath him locked his feet in place. The sky thundered and dark wings flew above. "You are now mine," she said. "My chosen mate. By the law of blood and stars." Jake's heart pounded. He looked around, searching for a way out, but there was none. The joke was over, and the nightmare had just begun. Jake stood frozen, his boots locked to the glowing red ground. He tried to lift his feet, but the earth held him tight like invisible chains. The strange woman stood just a few steps away, her silver hair flowing without wind. She looked like a goddess from a dream, or maybe a nightmare. Her skin was pale like moonlight, and her eyes were deep red like dying stars. Her voice was calm, but it echoed inside Jake's head. "Do not fight it, Jake Harris," she said. "You spoke the words, and the stars heard you." Jake's heart raced. This had to be a dream, a hallucination. He was a space pilot, not some space prince from a fairy tale gone wrong. "I didn't mean it," Jake said, trying to stay calm. "That whole marriage thing, it was a joke." "But my answer was not," she replied, her gaze sharp. "I am Seraphina, Queen of Althera, ruler of the Blood Court, first of the starborn vampires, and you, human, are now my bondmate." Jake laughed nervously. "This must be a prank, right? Some alien game show? Hidden cameras?" Seraphina's eyes narrowed. She raised her hand, and the ground released Jake's feet. He stumbled back but didn't run. The power around her was too strong, too dangerous. He looked around. The sky above shimmered with floating islands, blackbirds with silver wings and tall spires that reached into the clouds. Everything felt ancient, powerful, and alive. Jake pulled out his scanner again, hoping for a signal. Nothing, no GPS, no Earth frequencies. Just a message repeating on the screen. Proposal accepted, status bound. He looked back at the Queen. "You can't just bind me, there must be some way out of this." She stepped closer, her voice softer now. "There is no escape. Only acceptance." Suddenly behind her 4 guards appeared. Tall creatures with armor made of bone and eyes like fire. They didn't speak but bowed to their queen and waited. "Take him to the palace," Seraphina said. "Prepare the court." The guards approached but didn't grab Jake. Instead, the ground rose and carried him like a moving floor. He floated toward the distant castle, heart pounding with every second. The palace was huge and terrifying. Dark towers twisted into the sky, and red mist swirled around glowing walls. As he entered, Jake felt cold air rush over him. Cold, but not empty. It was filled with whispers. The inside of the palace looked like it belonged to a vampire opera. Tall columns, black glass windows, silver thrones, and walls covered in strange symbols. He was led to a massive hall, filled with creatures in dark robes and jeweled crowns. They stared at him like he was food. Some hissed, others whispered, a few even licked their lips. At the center of the hall stood Seraphina, now dressed in royal armor with a crimson cape. She raised her hand and the room fell silent. "This human," she said, her voice echoing through the hall, "has made a vow heard by the stars. He will stand beside me as my chosen consort." The crowd roared, not with cheers but with anger. "Outsider!" someone shouted. "Impure!" Another hissed. "He will doom us all!" cried a voice from the shadows. Seraphina raised her voice again. "The bond has been sealed, and the law of blood is clear," she said. "He is under my protection." Jake stood frozen as the court stared at him with a mix of fear, hate, and hunger. He didn't know if he was a guest, a prisoner, or a sacrifice. That night, he was taken to a dark room high in one of the towers. The windows looked out into a sky filled with red lightning. The furniture was made of black wood and silver bones. It was beautiful and terrifying. As he sat on the edge of the cold bed, Jake whispered to himself, "This can't be real. This can't be happening." But then a soft voice answered from the shadows, "It is real and it's only just beginning." Jake turned quickly, but saw no one, only a single black rose on the table. It hadn't been there before. It was a message, a warning. And as Jake lay back on the bed, eyes wide open, one thought burned in his mind. He was no longer alone in space. He was the future king of a vampire planet, and tomorrow, the Blood Court would decide if he was worthy to live. When the red sun of Althera rose, it wasn't like the sun Jake knew. It bled across the sky like liquid fire, turning the towers and clouds into rivers of crimson light. Jake sat near the cold window, still wearing his torn flight suit, watching the strange sky. He hadn't slept, not even for a minute. Every sound in the palace made him jump. The whispers in the hallway, the footsteps of guards, the low hum of alien machines. This place felt alive. And it didn't like him. Suddenly, the door opened without sound. A tall figure entered. Dressed in black armor and carrying a silver staff, he wasn't human. His skin was dark blue, his eyes glowing white, his teeth sharp. "I am Lord Varric," the creature said, bowing slightly, "protector of the Blood Court, servant to Her Majesty, Queen Seraphina." Jake stood, still cautious. "Are you here to kill me or just to scare me?" he asked, trying to sound brave. Varric smiled, showing his fangs. "Neither, human. You are to attend the Blood Court. The Queen demands your presence." Jake followed him through endless hallways, walls covered with symbols that glowed like veins. Every corridor whispered his name. He could feel eyes on him even when no one was there. When they entered the great hall, Jake froze. Hundreds of alien nobles stood in curved rows around a dark pit. Some floated in the air. Others crouched on walls like beasts. Their skin came in every shade, silver, blue, red, black, and their eyes burned like fireflies at the center. The queen sat on her throne made of glass and bones. She looked colder today, her beauty more dangerous than before. Jake tried to speak, but his throat went dry. Varric pushed him forward and said loudly, "The human stands before the blood court." The hall filled with murmurs, words Jake couldn't understand, hissing and echoing through the air. Serafina raised her hand, and the noise stopped. "Silence," she said, her voice echoing like thunder. "This man, this human, has bound himself to me by the ancient vow. The stars have accepted it, and so must you." A tall vampire in silver armor stepped forward, his eyes narrow with hate. "Your Majesty, forgive my words," he said. "But he is weak, he is mortal, he bleeds too easily. He cannot be your mate," others shouted in agreement. "He will bring ruin. He carries the scent of the sun. He will poison our blood." Jake clenched his fists. He didn't understand all their words, but he knew what they meant. They wanted him gone. Serafina stood, her cape spreading like wings. "Enough," she said. "By law, his bond cannot be broken without death. Would you challenge the law of the stars?" The hall went silent again. Even the flames in the torches dimmed. Then the Queen turned to Jake, her eyes softer now. "You are safe under my rule, Jake Harris, but remember, every step you take here is watched. Every breath you take is measured." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I kind of noticed," he muttered. The Queen almost smiled, almost, when the court ended. Varric led Jake through another door. This one opened into a huge library filled with floating books and glowing crystals. "This will be your chamber for study," Varric said. "You must learn our laws if you wish to survive." Jake walked to one of the books, the words shifting like smoke across the pages. "What happens if I fail your lessons?" he asked. Varric's expression didn't change. "Then you join the others," he said simply. Jake frowned. "The others?" Varric pointed to a dark corner. There, behind a glass wall, were bones, human bones. One still had a broken helmet with the Earth insignia on it. Jake's blood turned cold. He walked closer and saw scratches on the glass. It was writing, messy but clear. "She lies. Run if you can." Jake turned quickly. But Varric was already gone. The door sealed itself shut. He sat down, breathing fast. His mind was spinning. There had been another human here before him, someone who tried to escape and died that night. Jake couldn't stop thinking about the message. He paced the room, whispering to himself, "I can't stay here. I need to find a way out before she turns me into one of them." But outside his door, something was listening, something tall and quiet. Its shadow moved slowly against the wall. And when Jake finally sat down, exhausted, the whisper came again, soft like a dream. "Don't run, human. You belong to her now." Jake turned toward the sound, heart racing, in the corner of his room. A black mirror was glowing faintly inside it. He saw the reflection of Queen Serafina smiling, and her voice filled the room like cold fire. "Sleep, my chosen one, tomorrow. You meet the blood court again this time. They will test your worth." Jake's vision blurred, and the world faded. His body went still, but his mind screamed he was trapped, body and soul, and the game had just begun. Jake woke up on the floor, cold and shaking. He didn't remember falling asleep. His last memory was the Queen's voice coming through the mirror, sweet and sharp like a knife. The mirror was dark now, silent, but its reflection still lingered in his mind. He sat up, breathing fast. Something was changing inside him. His dreams were full of red skies, blood moons, and a woman's laughter that echoed through fire. The room felt tighter today, the air heavier. Even the walls seemed to lean in closer. Jake stood and walked to the glass case where the human bones were kept. The skull stared back at him, empty and quiet. The broken helmet still carried Earth's logo, scratched and burned. But Jake noticed something new behind the bones. There was a small slot in the wall, barely visible. He touched it and a thin panel slid open. Inside was a black book. Wrapped in dry leather, it looked ancient. He opened it with shaky hands. The first page was written in human handwriting. Messy but clear. "My name is Connor Rains, United Earth Surveyor captured by the Queen of Althera. If you are reading this, you're next." Jake swallowed hard and kept reading. The journal told a terrifying story. Connor had also made a joke, a dumb message sent to space during his lonely mission. The Queen had found him, just like she found Jake. She brought him to the blood court, promised him love, power, and eternal life at first. Connor believed her, but slowly he started changing. His skin turned cold, his eyes dimmed, and he began to lose his human memories. The Queen was turning him into something else. Something not human, not vampire, something in between. The last page was short, written in shaky lines. I tried to run, she caught me, she said she still loved me. Even as she broke my bones, run if you can. Don't let her finish what she started. Jake closed the book. Hands trembling, he backed away from the glass case like it was cursed. A knock echoed through the chamber. Slow and heavy, the door creaked open and Queen Seraphina entered. Dressed in a black robe with red gems, she smiled. But Jake now saw something beneath the smile, something cold and ancient. You found his journal, she said softly. I hoped you would. Jake didn't answer. He held the book tightly, his body tense like a coiled spring. He was brave, she continued, walking closer. But he was not ready. He didn't understand the gift I offered. Is that what you call it? Jake asked, his voice low. A gift? You turned him into a monster, and when he ran, you killed him. Seraphina's eyes flickered with something dark. I loved him even as I broke him, she said. But he chose fear over destiny. Will you do the same? Jake looked into her eyes, searching for the truth. He saw pain there, but also hunger. She was lonely, but her love came with a price. I don't want to die, he said. I don't want to become like him either. You don't have to, she whispered, stepping closer. You're stronger than he was, smarter. If you accept me, truly accept me, you'll be something new. Not human, not vampire, but greater than both. Jake backed away, heart pounding. And if I say no? Her smile faded. Then the blood court will decide your fate tomorrow. They've waited long enough. She turned and walked toward the door, her voice soft behind her. I hope you choose love, Jake. I don't want to break another one. When she left, the room went dark. Jake sat down, gripping the journal like a lifeline. He couldn't trust her. But he couldn't fight her alone either. He needed help. Hours passed, maybe more. Jake was about to fall asleep when he heard something strange. A whisper coming from the wall behind the glass case. He moved closer, and a small section of the stone slid open, revealing a hidden tunnel. A figure stepped out, wrapped in shadows, not a vampire, not a guard, something different. It was a young woman with short silver hair and sharp eyes. Her voice was fast and urgent. I'm not one of them, she said. My name is Kale, and I'm part of the resistance. We've been watching you since the moment you arrived. Jake stared, stunned. Resistance? Kale nodded. You want to survive? You want to stop her from turning you into her pet king? Then come with me right now. Jake didn't hesitate. He grabbed the journal, slipped through the wall, and followed her into the dark. Behind him, the room sealed shut. The bones of Connor Rains rested in silence, but the game was no longer one-sided. The Queen wasn't the only player on the board now. The tunnel was narrow, dark, and cold. Jake followed Kale through winding paths beneath the palace. His breath echoed in the silence, his heart pounding in his chest. He didn't know if this was escape or a trap. Kale moved fast, her footsteps silent. She didn't look back. She seemed to know every corner, every shadow. They finally stopped in a wide underground chamber, lit by red crystals. Strange machines hummed in the corners. Holograms flickered, showing maps of the palace, court members, and even the Queen's movements. This is our base, Kale whispered. We've been hiding here for years, waiting for someone like you. Jake looked around. A few others stepped out from the shadows, vampires with pale skin but human eyes. They nodded at him, not with fear but with hope. What is this place? Jake asked. Kale stepped beside him, her voice sharp and quiet. The blood games begin tomorrow. The Queen will put you in the arena. She'll say it's a test of loyalty, but it's more than that. It's a trap. Jake clenched his jaw. She wants me to fight? She wants to see if you'll kill, Kyle said. She wants to see if you'll become one of them. Jake looked down at his hands. He still felt human, but for how long? We can help you, Kyle continued. But you need to survive the games first. Do not win, Jake. Just stay alive. Trust me. Before he could ask what that meant, alarms rang out above. The resistance members scattered. Kale pushed a device into Jake's hand, a small crystal glowing blue. Hide this. "It's your only way out," she whispered. "Now go." Before they notice you're missing, she led him back to his room through a hidden shaft. Seconds later, the door burst open, and guards dragged Jake away. The arena was massive. Built into a crater of black stone, thousands of vampires watched from high platforms, their eyes glowing in the dark. Torches burned with blue flames, and blood-red banners flew in the wind. Jake stood in the center. Dressed in dark armor given by the Queen, it felt light, but the weight of what was coming crushed his chest. Queen Seraphina sat on her high throne. Beside her stood Lord Varric, his eyes never leaving Jake. "Let the trial begin," the Queen said, her voice echoing across the arena. A gate opened. A beast charged into the arena, 8 legs, covered in metal plates, eyes glowing with rage. It screamed as it ran, shaking the ground. Jake barely dodged its first strike, rolling behind a pillar. He pulled out a blade, strange and curved, made from alien metal. The crowd roared. The beast turned and charged again. Jake ran, climbed a broken statue, and jumped onto the creature's back. He stabbed down hard again and again. The beast screamed and collapsed. Smoke rising from its body, cheers erupted from the court. But Jake didn't feel like a winner. He felt like a prisoner who had just earned another day in his cell. More enemies came, 2 blood hunters with blades of bone, then a flying demon with fire breath. Jake fought hard, using speed, not power. He didn't kill unless he had to. Kale's warning echoed in his mind. Do not win. Just survive by the end of the games. Jake stood bloodied, bruised, but breathing. The crowd cheered, but their faces were hungry. They wanted more. Queen Seraphina stood slowly. She raised her hand and the arena went silent. "Jake Harris," she said, "you have proven yourself, but now your final challenge begins." A new gate opened. From the shadows walked a figure in silver armor, tall and strong. Jake's heart dropped. It was Kale. She looked different now, cold and unreadable. She held 2 curved blades in her hands. Jake stepped back. "No, what is this?" Seraphina smiled. "Your little friend betrayed you. She is one of mine, always has been." Jake's mind raced. Was it true? Was Kale a spy? Or was this another game? Kyle spoke, her voice loud and flat. "If you want to leave this place, you must go through me." They circled each other. Blades raised, but her eyes said something else. Jake charged, swinging low. She blocked it, but whispered, "Trust me, follow my lead." The fight was fast and brutal, but not deadly. Each strike was real, but not final. They danced for the crowd, creating the illusion of betrayal. In the final move, Kale slashed across Jake's arm and kicked him down. He hit the ground hard, the crowd cheering wildly. Seraphina stood, pleased. "Enough," she said. "The human has passed. He has learned pain, trust, and fear." Jake lay still. Breathing hard, he looked at Kale. She turned away, her role complete. But now Jake knew. He wasn't alone. Even in betrayal, there was a path forward. And somewhere in this dark court, the real fight was just beginning. Jake sat in silence inside the Queen's guest chamber. His arm bled slowly from Kale's blade, but the pain didn't bother him. What shook him more was the memory of her whisper. "Trust me. Follow my lead." She had faked the betrayal. She had saved his life. But now he was deeper in the Queen's web than ever before. The blood court celebrated his victory with dark music and wine as thick as oil. He had become a symbol, a human who had survived the arena, but he wasn't proud. He was trapped, and time was running out. That night, the Queen visited him again. She wore a flowing dress made of shadows, her eyes softer than before. She sat beside him on the edge of the cold bed and touched his wounded arm. "You surprised me today, Jake," she said. "You fight with strength, but also with restraint. You're becoming what I hoped for." Jake pulled away gently. "I didn't come here to become anything," he said. "I came to explore a planet, not marry a vampire queen." She smiled at that, but her smile was tired. "You say that like I gave you a choice." Jake met her eyes. "Then give me one now." There was a pause, a long silence. Then she stood. "You will see the stars again, one last time, tomorrow night. I will take you to the spire of bloodlight. It is where all bound souls decide their fate," and just like that, she left, her footsteps vanishing into the silence. The next day, Kale found him again. She appeared through a mirror this time, stepping from shadow like smoke. "We don't have much time," she whispered. "I placed a signal crystal in your arena armor. It was hidden inside the shoulder plate. Did you keep it?" Jake nodded. "I stashed it under the bed." Kale moved quickly and retrieved it. The crystal blinked blue, still active, still waiting. "This is your only way to reach Earth," she said. "But you must send the signal from the top of the spire. It's the only place in Althera that breaks through the sky shield." Jake frowned. "The Queen said she's taking me there tomorrow." Kyle nodded. "Then that's your chance." She pressed a device into his hand. "If you can get to the top alone, activate this. It'll send out a signal burst strong enough to reach your fleet." "And what happens after I call them?" Jake asked. "Will they come for me?" Kale's voice turned cold. "They'll come, but not to rescue. They'll come to burn this place down. If you want to stop the Queen." "That's your moment." Jake looked at the device, feeling its weight, so much power in something so small. "What about you?" he asked. Kyle looked away. "I'll be dead before you reach the top. I made my choice the day I joined the Resistance." Jake wanted to argue, but the look in her eyes stopped him. She had already accepted her fate. Now he had to choose his. The next night, the Queen took Jake to the Spire of Bloodlight. They flew together on a floating platform, passing through red clouds and lightning. The spire rose like a dagger into the sky, taller than any tower Jake had seen. The Queen stood beside him, silent and still. She looked peaceful, almost human. "I brought Connor here too," she said suddenly. "He stood where you stand now, but he chose fear. He ran from what I offered." Jake didn't speak. His fingers curled around the signal device hidden in his sleeve. When they landed, she led him up the spiral stairs of the spire. Wind howled around them. The sky above cracked with red lightning. At the top, the Queen stopped. The view was endless. Stars, moons, and the galaxy itself spinning slowly above. "This is where I ask one last time," she said, turning to him. "Be mine, Jake. Let go of your old world. Become something more." Jake stepped back slowly. He took a deep breath and said, "I made a promise to myself. I never wanted to belong to anyone, not even a queen." He pulled out the signal device and pressed it. The crystal burst with light, firing a beam into the sky. The Queen's eyes widened. "Not in anger, but in heartbreak, you called them," she whispered. "You brought death to my door." Jake nodded slowly. "I had to. You took my freedom. Now I take it back." The spire began to shake. Alarms screamed across the sky. Flames burst through the clouds. Earth's fleet had arrived. Below, Kyle watched from the shadows, smiling through tears. Then she vanished into the smoke as the palace began to crumble. Jake stood at the edge of the spire, the Queen still beside him. He didn't know if he'd live through this. But for the first time since this nightmare began, he was free. Fire rained from the sky. Red clouds turned black as Earth's warships broke through Althera's shield. Explosions shook the spire of Bloodlight as ancient stones cracked and fell into the storm below. Jake stood at the edge, holding the signal device in one hand and staring at Queen Seraphina. She didn't move. Her long silver hair whipped in the wind, her eyes burning with sadness, not rage. "You really called them," she whispered. "You chose war. I chose freedom," Jake replied. "I chose Earth." The Queen stepped closer. "You think they came to save you?" She asked. "No, Jake. They came to erase what they fear." Jake's hand trembled. She wasn't wrong. He had seen the Earth Fleet's war orders. Total planetary sterilization. Althera would be turned into ash. "Then help me stop it," he said quickly. "Call off your guards. Stop the attacks. There's still time." But Seraphina looked past him. "Into the sky. I protected this world for 10,000 years. I gave it blood, power, and peace. And now they come to burn it. Why should I show mercy?" Jake's voice cracked. "Because I begged you. Because I meant it when I said I didn't want to kill you." She paused. Her eyes searched his. Then she whispered, "And did you mean it when you asked, 'Who wants to marry me?'" Jake froze. The memory came back. Sharp and strange. His dumb little joke shouted into space. And now it had led to war, to death, to her. "I was joking," he said softly. "But you weren't." "No," she said. "I never joke." A deep rumble shook the tower, and Jake's earpiece crackled. Command to Harris, fleet bombardment begins in 5 minutes. Get clear or be caught in the blast. Jake looked at Serafina one last time. She turned away and began to walk toward the edge of the spire. Go home, Jake, she said, her voice almost human now. This world isn't yours, it was never meant for you. But Jake didn't move. He felt the wind, the heat, the fear, and yet something else. Something pulling at his chest. He took a step forward. Maybe it wasn't, he said. But I'm here now, and I don't want to watch you die. She turned, confused. Why? Because I think I care, he said. And that scares me more than any blood trial. More than your fangs, your court, your throne. Silence stretched between them, then she whispered, There is one way, but it will cost you everything. I don't care, Jake said. Tell me. If I bite you now, she said, and you accept it freely, your blood will link with mine. You will become a part of Althera. A true king. Not human, not vampire, but something else, Jake swallowed. And Earth? They will feel the bond, she said. If you become one of us, they might stop. They will see this world as not a threat, not ruled by a queen, but by one of their own. The sky cracked again. Another wave of fire fell over the mountains. Time was almost gone. Jake took one slow breath. Then nodded. I accept, he said. No more running. Serafina stepped forward, eyes glowing bright. She reached for his hand, pulled him close. Then her fangs sank into his neck. It wasn't pain. It was heat, light, stars exploding behind his eyes. Memories not his own flooded into him. Ages of blood. Sorrow, love, loss, he gasped, falling to his knees. His skin glowed faint red, his veins darkened. His heart stopped, then restarted with a new rhythm. He looked up, eyes now glowing like hers. He was different, he was more. The sky above paused. The Earth fleet sensors picked up the change. Energy levels around the spire shifted, and for the first time in hours, they held their fire. Later, Jake stood beside Serafina on the broken balcony. Below them, the flames were dying. Ships hovered silently in the sky, waiting, watching. Jake sent one final message to Earth. This world is no longer hostile. This queen has chosen peace. And so have I, the response came minutes later. Understood, Harris, we are standing down. Welcome to your new kingdom. Jake turned to Serafina. She reached out, touched his face gently. No more jokes, she said. Jake smiled. Only vows. And as the twin moons of Althera rose behind them, a new chapter began, one written in blood, stars, and a human heart that once joked into the void, and found a queen waiting to say yes.